This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Lila Carter.
Welcome to the Good Neighbor Podcast. Are you in need of a mission-centric coffee shop? One might be closer than you think. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing your good neighbor, Mordy Rudolph, with Bunny Bakes and the Friendship Circle. Mordy, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good.
I'm excited to learn all about you and your business, so please tell us about your organizations.
Sure. So the Friendship Circle was founded in 2006 here in Pittsburgh with the goal of creating an inclusive community, particularly for people with disabilities. And so we've been providing inclusive programming for young people, now adults as well, with and without disabilities since then, starting from like an arts club and a cooking club and a gymnastics club and a bowling league, and now advancing into some family programs, an end of summer camp. We just had lemonade stands yesterday. We'll do a Kennywood Day, really kind of any number of opportunities that kind of get people together, and again, with and without disabilities. And so we've been really looking at how to properly expand our offerings for our adult population, as well as finding more opportunities for them, not just to connect with each other, but really to be a part of the community. And so what often happens is as adults with disabilities get older, they was kind of like known as sort of graduating to the couch. And so they finished school, they finished many of their young opportunities that were available to them when they were younger. And now as they get older, they face less and less opportunities. And so we've been providing what we call Friends on the Town, which is like our adult track for a number of years now. And so it's, again, kind of mirrors a lot of what we do for kids. So it's some cooking, it's some dance, it's, events, going to whether it's a ball game or they went to the Riverhounds game the other night, just kind of opportunities to kind of get them around the community. But often it's really kind of centered around adults with disabilities and not as many typical folks kind of participating. And so what we really wanted to do was provide more of an inclusive angle to it. And so we embarked on a business. And so we took some time, we did a lot of exploring around what, that might look like. And, it felt like food and drink, I guess, if you will, was really kind of like something that makes it a little less transactional and more interactive. And so what we wanted was something that didn't just kind of bring people in to purchase an item and leave, but to really kind of further that interaction and ensure that our adults are part and ingrained in the community. And so that was kind of where the idea was born of Bunny Bakes. We have some other kind of offerings we do. We have a space called The Beacon and some other programs that are part of the Friendship Circle and help make us up. But Bunny Bakes has been kind of like one of our new initiatives. And so it's a coffee shop and bakery on Murray Avenue in Squirrel Hill, right next to our current location. And it's really kind of in the heart of the neighborhood. But we'll do catering for events. We'll do, any number of baked goods, everything baked fresh daily. We actually have been doing a little bit of farm to tabling, if you will, where we have a rooftop in our building that we completed in 2016 and now has been growing a number of herbs and small vegetables. We have some eggplants, tomatoes, radishes, and we're incorporating them into a number of our recipes in the bakery as well. And so it kind of allows for a little bit of we like to call a full circle moment, where we can actually utilize things that we're growing here at Friendship Circle in the bakery. So that's the quick nutshell.
Sorry to interrupt. I love that you guys have an urban garden. I think if more buildings had urban gardens, we could probably solve world hunger. So
right,
it's great.
Right. Yeah. And it takes some talent, and some of our chefs who really, everybody who's part of the bakery, we really need them to understand what our mission's about. And so obviously making good coffee is really important. We get our beans from Defer, and so we have kind of a good partner in that. And making good quality baked goods fresh is also important, but it's really about that mission. And so, we incorporate adults with disabilities into all aspects, whether it's the baking, baristas, greeters, they're all kind of part of the business. And we also have a training program that runs alongside the bakery and after hours on Mondays and Wednesdays, where our adults will come in and get trained in kind of the food service industry. And our hope is, we're developing partnerships now with larger kind of caterers and restaurants and businesses that they can potentially graduate into, and just kind of like just really making our community as a whole a more inclusive place and a better place. And really kind of, to your point about kind of solving world hunger, it's like, how do we, bring this potential workforce into the workforce, and a bunch of adults who've been part of Friendship Circle for many years and really have gained tremendous skills, just kind of in the last almost 2 years now that we've operated it. So.
Yeah, and also integrating those potential employment opportunities for them. I think that's amazing. So how did you get into this industry, Mordy?
The coffee one, or the Friendship Circle. The Friendship Circle, my wife Rifki and I founded in 2006 here in Pittsburgh, and it really kind of came at us. I'm a rabbi. We kind of came from the angle of the Jewish community, and from that perspective, and realized there was a lack of programs for kids with disabilities in the Jewish community. And it felt like the reason why that was the case was because um, people weren't familiar, and they just weren't exposed to people with disabilities, and they didn't know anyone with disabilities. And we felt like we were kind of prime examples of that, because my wife and I had grown up in Pittsburgh and in the Jewish community, and really interacted very minimally with people with disabilities. And so it felt like we needed to kind of help further that and combat that. And we were kind of like the test cases for it, and realized that if only we got to know people with disabilities, um, rather than it just being kind of like people with disabilities, their family members, their advocates, their kind of like teachers, and then everyone else who just is unfamiliar, we needed to kind of bridge that gap. And so that was where we kind of like made it our life's work. And we've been kind of just growing it ever since. And it's been wonderful for our family. It's been, I think, wonderful for our community, and just seeing kind of folks who move to town, and part of their moving into Pittsburgh has been kind of seeing Friendship Circle on Murray Avenue and knowing that like their kids will be accepted here, and they don't have to kind of live, not I'd say live in fear, but like have to worry that like, will the community be accepting of their child or family member. And we obviously, the Friendship Circle provides this programming, but at the same time, provides that dedication, commitment to an inclusive community.
I love that. Yeah, and just sharing acceptance of people who are maybe differently abled than you are is so beautiful to me. So, what are some myths or maybe misconceptions in your industry?
Sure. So, I would say the one thing, and we worked so hard to combat it, is that when we were embarking on this next phase of this bakery coffee shop, and we sat down with a number of stakeholders, parents of folks with disabilities, self advocates, bakers, just people who are involved in Friendship Circle and supporters and such, and we knew that like our questions to them were basically, what do we need to do to ensure that this is an inclusive space? And the overwhelming response was, it needs to be attractive, and it needs to be a place where people are proud to work in and people are proud to frequent. And if that, so long as that's that's what we're known for, then all else kind of like fades away, and it'll be an inclusive place. And so, to us, it was like, how do we ensure that this is a quality space, that, is aesthetically pleasing and provides a wonderful product, but still doesn't compromise on our mission. And so I would say that the one myth that we really try, and I'd say from the very beginning, to combat has been, it's the Friendship Circle, it's a coffee shop bakery that employs adults with disabilities. It's probably just like kind of like a training center, and so everything's kind of like a little iffy. And it's like, no, everything that's here is really good and fresh and high quality ingredients. And so that's been something that we set out from the get-go to do, because what we found was that, like, in a lot of our exploring, was that often you'd have like either the business is kind of like geared towards the inclusivity aspect of the business, and so it's it includes adults with disabilities or kids with disabilities in the mission, but sacrifices some of the product, whether it's a cafe that's fine, but it's just what it's known for is the fact that it's inclusive, or the other way around, where it's a quality business but kind of doesn't really fully include people with disabilities in it. And so we felt like we can really do both, and we're going to try our darndest to make sure that happens.
Sure. So Who are your target customers then, as we think of marketing as the heart of every business, and how do you track them?
Sure. I mean, our customers are anyone and everyone. I mean, it really, folks from just kind of looking for their morning coffee, to people who are here for meetings, to people who, are getting married and need or in need of like, parfaits or cupcakes or cakes or, all that stuff. So we'll really kind of run the gamut as far as who our potential customers are. It's sometimes hard to be able to market as to like what's our, how are we tracking, people sit down versus people who are taking out, can often be a little more complicated than it seems. Catering is something that we're always working to expand. I'd say ideally small catering, although we've done several hundred people events, desserts and trays and such for those. But smaller catering jobs are something that we really kind of are working to expand right now, I'd say.
Very nice. Have you ever thought about doing your own podcast to get the word out?
No, I mean, we started like a teen-oriented podcast a few years ago. That was something that I think, we've explored, but that's about as far as we've gone from that.
Yeah. What else do you do for fun outside of work?
Well, I enjoy exercising. I think it's kind of good to stay healthy. Um, what else do I do? Kind of a bit of a news junkie. Um, those would probably be like the two that come to mind most immediately.
So, Mordy, please tell our listeners one thing that they should remember about Bunny Bakes and the Friendship Circle.
Sure. So, the one thing I would say is really that everyone can do more in terms of ensuring that our community is a more inclusive one. And so, whether that means just kind of that interaction, or even in the business, the way we kind of structured the business was such that it shouldn't be a fishbowl. It shouldn't be a place where you come in and you get to see people with disabilities working, but that you should be thinking about your own business or your own lives or your own kind of like social circles and think to yourself like, how might how might I be a little more inclusive in that? And that was where kind of we set out on the mission. Like a success would be if someone came in and said, you know what, I actually have a shop or a store or a business, and I could really use some extra hands. And I see that so and so who works here is great. Would there be any chance that I could hire him? And that's success as far as we're concerned, because it's really about ensuring that they're part of the community. And so everyone kind of has a role to play in it, is what I'd say.
I love that. That's beautiful. So how can our listeners learn more about your businesses?
Sure. So our website, bunnybakes.org, would be a good place to start. And we also have, and then we also have our main website, which is fcpgh.org. Those would be like the two websites I would send you to. You can go to Friendship Circle's website and there's a link there to Bunny Bakes as well. And for folks who have, family members that would like to get involved, there's a get to know you form where you can fill that out and sign up. The school year is beginning, so a lot of our programming is starting now for the school year, and we're gearing up for a good one. So.
Very good. Well, Mordy, I really appreciate your time today and having you as a guest on the show. We wish you and both of your businesses the best moving forward.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnppittsburgh.com. That's gnppittsburgh.com. Or call 412-561-9956.